There are some lessons to be learned, and I think I have touched on one of them, for example, just now when I spoke about the resilience of the Israeli people. And I think that the ability for them to come straight back from terrorist attack, to show the terrorists that this is not affecting us. Yes, you've done your thing. Yes, you've killed some people. We're going to grieve them. We're going to track you down and find out who did it and deal with you. Yes, we're going to do that. But you're not screwing our lives up. I think that's an important message to get across. Because if you show the kind of what I call defeatism of the likes of Sadiq Khan, who says, you just have to get used to it. This is a fact of life of living in London. Then it's an encouragement to them. So I think that kind of resilience, immediately bouncing back, standing up to it, not accepting it. Another lesson, I think, which is a hard one to institute, it's probably impossible to institute in our countries, is if you look at the history of terrorism in Israel in recent years, a huge number of terrorist attacks, including suicide bomb attacks, knife attacks, gun attacks, ramming attacks, have been stopped by individual Israelis, not by the authorities, maybe by private security officers or just people out on the street, have been stopped by them because many of them carry weapons. All of them have been soldiers. They know what to do. Now, I think you'd be asking the impossible if you asked the average citizen of Stavanger to take on an armed terrorist, probably because he hasn't got a gun for a start and wouldn't know how to use it if he did have. So I think there's that, unless we introduce some compulsory mobilization, military training or weapons training and issue of weapons to every citizen, then that's not going to happen. But it is an important difference, I think, between the way that we operate and the way the Israelis operate. The final couple of points, just to make in answer to your question. One, community policing. I think the Israelis, it may be hard for some people to understand this, but I compare this to Britain. I believe that our police force has put and Home Office have put huge efforts into understanding the problem, trying to win over the communities, get the communities to help, because Muslim communities are where these terrorists come from, they're where they operate, they're where they get sanctuary rather. And we need information from them to stop it, and we also need them to physically intervene and stop it when they can. And we've made progress there, but if you compare it to what the Israelis do, the community policing efforts made by the Israelis, to bring in the Palestinian leadership to gain intelligence from what's happening there, that they're years ahead of us, years ahead. And they have. I met in Jerusalem a few weeks ago. I was out with an Israeli police patrol, and I was talking to a Arab Muslim officer in the Israeli police who is responsible for an area of Jerusalem, and his understanding was obviously immense. And this is not untypical. And the cooperation actually between the Israeli police and security forces and the army in the West Bank and the Palestinian security authorities is on the whole extremely good and extremely strong. So it's that extending, people take the view that Israel, there they are, they're the Jewish state, they put the hand in front of the Arabs, won't have anything to do with them, downtread them, oppress them, occupy them. Actually, that is not the reality. Yes, there are problems, massive problems, but one of them is not a lack of attempts, at least, with a great deal of success, to harness those communities to try and make sure that they can live together. And in that whole kind of effort to downplay, de-escalate things, they've got very careful techniques about, and their officers, every single one of their officers is trained in both policing and counter-terrorism. They have specialist counter-terrorist units as well. But they do everything they can, and they're very effective, I think, at de-escalating a situation before it gets out of control. We're talking about rioting here and so on. You see many instances of stoning and rioting on television, on YouTube, shoved out at us. But there are many, many other situations where these could have occurred, but the Israelis have managed to de-escalate it before it happened. They also have very strict policies of shooting, the police, far, in my opinion, far different to our own, where they're far more willing to fire warning shots or to shoot to wound a potential terrorist or a terrorist than Western European police forces are, who are not normally trained in quite the same way. So there are all those different things, I think. And I think the final point is intelligence. Again, this is sort of self-evident in a way, but the Israelis have very, very strong intelligence access into the whole of the country and surrounding countries that concern them. It's not without problems, it's not without issues, but it's very, very effective. But they have the great advantage that we haven't yet got, really. It's an advantage and disadvantage, in that they've been working on this problem in the long term. We've only just really started it, I think. So they've got a real basis for building it up and improving it. But also there is immense cooperation between intelligence services in Israel, in European countries, including Norway, and policing. I know that Norwegian police have been out to Israel to... he's telling me to shut up because I've been banging on too long. One thing I do like is the sound of my own voice. Thank you.